Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of Tulsa Life. Soon to be TBD, maybe new name coming. So watch out for that because we are revamping our podcast. And Deidre Rader is here today. And we are so ecstatic to have you because you're going to bring so much value. And we were just kind of talking about how our new purpose for this podcast is really to give our listeners, takeaways that they can apply to their life. They can apply to their business. And you're a rock star.
Oh,
so
thank you.
You come with all the accolades, like, you've been talked up, and even Heather today was like, oh my gosh, I love Deidre. She's coming in and she's so dynamic. So without further ado, tell us a little bit of your background, kind of how you got to where you are today and then what you're doing right now.
Well, I am a Tulsa native, so T-Town is my home. I love that we get to raise our babies here, but my husband and I actually both went to Union High School. We were not high school sweethearts, but we dated when he was at Oklahoma State. I went to Oral Roberts. He came back through town right before he joined the Navy and convinced me to just go to lunch. And so I texted him afterwards. I was like, honey.
I was like, one lunch and he was honey.
Already. Well, I thought it might be, but he didn't respond to my text. I just said it was like a really fun time. And he wrote a really long email. An email. And it said in lieu of a text. And so this journalism major was just smitten right after that. And so we dated long distance for quite a while.
So this email must have been something pretty It was just dynamic.
Very eloquent. I was like, how is this engineer such a good speaker?
Wait. So he's an engineer who emails?
I know.
Like words?
And actual, like thought out, beautiful. It's just very impressive. And then he'd write tons of letters to not only me, but like all of his friends and family. And he's just a very good firstborn, getting it done, and just loves life really big. And so
wow. Okay, so you guys met while you were in school or out of school?
Well, I was at ORU as a junior. We met in high school, but he had gotten transferred to Jacksonville, Florida, and JAX is the airport code.
Yes.
One of our twins' names. So we have Jet and Jax and
oh my gosh,
little
that's
Knox.
Adorable.
And so, we've had a lot of fun. 3 boys. And so God knew I had plenty of girls being the high school volleyball coach at Lincoln Christian. But what happened just kind of with that journey of being in the Navy was just fun traveling and seeing
I was going to say, did you get to live in a lot of different places?
We did. And so that just, I think, even bonded us more because we used to like walk, as we were looking for homes, we'd be like, this reminds me of Utica Square. And look how much house we could afford if we lived in Tulsa. And
isn't that the truth? Yes. I love it when we get people that are coming, especially from like California.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, wait, I can buy a house for $500,000. And you're like, oh yeah, you can buy a house for $500,000.
Yes, you can.
Yes. So it's like cool. It's like sticker shock.
Indeed.
So you got to experience that culture, going different places. But then what prompted you to come back to Tulsa?
Yeah, I think that there's no ocean in Oklahoma, so he was never going to be stationed here.
No.
So it was ultimately, I used my journalism degree for a year working in news, and then I kind of fell into coaching because it was something that I could do every time we moved. And then they also paid for me to get my home staging license. And so that was something else I was kind of able to do.
What have you not done? What can you not do?
I had a high school basketball coach that saw me walk out of practice in my volleyball knee pads. And he was like, does Coach Mickey have you practicing during my season? This is my high school volleyball coach, right? They're friends. I was like, no, I'm going to club volleyball because I want to play volleyball in college. And that's how you get recruited. And he called us all together the next day and he said, there's a lot of things at Union that you guys can get involved in, but you can be a jack of all trades or a master of none. And I took that as such a condemnation because he wanted me to focus just on his sport and be the master of that sport. But like, I've realized that God has given me all of these gifts and talents that I get to utilize in different ways. And I don't even like to think of it as being a jack of all trades. Like, I think that God gave me gifts to excel in multiple things that I can enjoy. And just as our seasons of life have changed, I could focus on one thing. Like staging took a back seat when I got pregnant with the twins. And I really just ramped up coaching. And Lincoln has been a blast. And but now that my littlest, is in kindergarten, I've kind of used my staging for Airbnbs. And so that's been our journey, and Daniel's just been the steady rock of being the engineer, and I just
get to
run around doing all the fun things. And,
okay, so I love this. Okay, so let's jump into, because I want to know more about all of it. And let's start with the volleyball team. So you're the coach or the head coach of the Lincoln Christian Volleyball girls team, which they are a freaking powerhouse. and you guys are phenomenal. I've watched you numerous times, and I love watching volleyball. Like, volleyball is
It
fun.
is. It's intense.
It
It's fun to
is.
watch.
It's fast. Like,
Yes.
I like fast pace. Like, I'm sorry for all of you baseball people
Amen.
out there,
Oh my gosh, watching
but
our
it's like
boys play
peeling
is
paint. I'm like,
painful.
baseball, come on, let's do something. Let's go.
Oh my
Like,
god, I was just complaining to my best friend about it because I was like, I just can't.
yeah. And now Brittany in our office, like, married a baseball player, and she loves baseball. And
Yeah.
she's like, anytime that there's a chance to go watch baseball, she's like, I'm there. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you go.
You
Like,
go. I mean, like when ORU made it to the World Series last year, like
that
of
was
course
so
we were their
cool.
biggest fans.
Sure.
Like, but that was like the highest level of baseball. So therefore
Yes.
it is more exciting to watch than third grade
Yeah.
baseball.
So,
But
so
yeah, I agree.
volleyball.
Volleyball,
So
super
you
fun.
played volleyball in school.
Yeah. Then we
Um,
got back to
Did you play volleyball in
Tulsa
college?
at ORU. Yep.
Okay.
And so then I was handed a really great program at Lincoln, and I just got to take it and run with it and make it my own. And I mean, the girls and the families, I mean, I think just the ministry of Church on the Move trickles into our our school,
Good
which into our
kids.
athletic
Yes.
department. And therefore I get to, run a program that is exemplifying all of that. And we have won state the last 4 out of 6 years, but it's
Which is
been really awesome
insane.
athletes that have come through and that buy into it and love their teammates. And, they just get some grit. And that's why I think I love coaching is raising up female athletes because the first female coach I had wasn't until college. And so to see what it looks like to be a working mom, and I think that's cool because some of them are going to be stay-at-home moms too, but that they
Right.
get to show up and be gritty and resilient even in whatever world God places them in. And so that's why I love that I get to coach too. Um, but yeah, coaching isn't very lucrative if you haven't heard. So real estate has been a really great way for me to pay for my coaching habits. So
So I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to focus for a minute. One thing that you said that I think is important, especially depending upon where you are, maybe if you're starting a team or if you're inheriting a team,
Mhm.
you said you kind of inherited a really
Yeah.
great program.
Yeah.
There is so much pressure that comes with inheriting a great program,
Mm.
just as much pressure
Fair.
as there is when you are building it.
Sure.
So I would love to dive into that for a minute and
Okay.
talk about, kind of the pressure, the way that you have to, be resilient and maintain. It's
Sure.
kind of like a Coach K and Duke,
Oh my gosh, and what he's been
like
able to do
this
with
dynasty that's
Yeah.
been built. And then the poor person who's going to come
Right.
in next that has this expectation of keeping it
Sure.
good. So you came in. So give us some of your, things that you felt like, okay, I'm coming in. How did you make it your own, but still sustain the level and then elevate that level?
Sure.
I know I should have prepped you with this question.
No,
You're like,
that's
oh,
great.
dang.
It's one of those things. I'm in my 8th season now, so I'm just trying to reflect
Think
on
back. Yeah.
right.
What were the feelings that
my
you
twins
had?
were 1 at
Okay,
the time too.
okay,
So I'm
so-
like, I was in a fog still also, but
I
it
hear
was one
that.
of those things of, it was an opportunity that like when we moved back, I was pregnant with the twins to Tulsa. And my union coach called me and he was like, will you just come and coach the freshmen and then leave? So the twins are like 3 months old. And that was like my first way of like, am I going to work?
Can I juggle this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so loved it. And I was with my old coach and my mentors. And so literally the only job that would have pulled me away was Lincoln because of how much we respected Willie George's ministry and
Yes.
how Whit has done such a great job stepping into huge shoes
Yes,
and
again.
maintaining something that
Maybe I
has
need to have
been
Whit on
built.
too. Ask
Clearly,
him,
yes. I mean, yeah, because he's done a phenomenal job. And so it is one of it, especially kind of passing from his dad down. I can't imagine that, but it was knowing that the coach that I stepped in for was a friend of mine too. And so I got to bridge with him and just, respect everything that he had done and then say, but this is my version of what it looks like
Right.
to be successful too. And so
So seeking counsel,
seeking
good counsel, and having good.
mentorship from my previous coaches, from our athletic director. I remember asking him, hey, it seems like some of our seniors want to be treated in a way that they're seen as maybe higher than. And so I'm just curious, like what that looks like to you guys, because they're using the football program as an example of, why didn't we get to like sit at the front of the bus? Or they were great questions, but I was like, I want to know what Lincoln's
What is your stance? Yeah.
right? And so my AD was like, the Lincoln way is the Jesus way, and he came to serve. And so yeah, your seniors should be serving. And
I like that.
so I was thankful to hear that guidance too and continue to push in that way. But I think one of the things that has made our program so strong and being able to maintain that was something that was implemented with our athletic department. I remember doing it during COVID. We all were FaceTiming in. So it was some of the coaching staff, and it was called our WIN team, What's Important Now. And
Oh,
you
I
have to
like
like
that.
really dig deep because there's four channels that you're plugging information in: what's right, what's wrong, what's missing, and what's confused. And so to be able to like receive that information is hard, right? But then you're going through it together. So we did as an athletic department
So
first.
give me an example. So like
Okay,
let's
so
say if
our
you're
seniors,
on this
right?
call or
Yeah,
you're on this Zoom.
right. So the athletic department one was more me giving information like, this is what our athletic department can do
Okay.
better. This is what we're doing right. And, working through some of that confusion, right? Who do I actually talk to when I need to order this? Or who,
Gosh,
like
that's
those
so
little
good.
things like that, that you kind of just wade through because you're coaches and you just do because you've been raised to do that as an athlete. But it makes you dig a little deeper, right? And so to get some feedback from your girls and to let them know that they have buy-in into this, or they get to speak into this, but that ultimately the coaching staff will make that final
Right.
decision. I think that's what really propelled us, I think, to win our state championship in 2021 in 4A. And because of our success, we got bumped up to 5A this year, and which was another fun battle in and of itself to say,
Right.
we're going to keep maintaining regardless.
That
We ended up
level of
losing in the
excellence.
semis, but it was a great battle. I mean, and the seniors led so well. And so it's just been fun to see each of our senior groups. I'm meeting with my seniors in an hour and a half today to kind of paint the vision for this fall too. And
Oh,
so it's
and that's
just,
exciting.
it is exciting to just think, okay, it's another season. We're refreshing, resetting, and letting them have their own. I kind of think of it as a blueprint, right? Like Lincoln volleyball, and what each of these teams has added their own build on to the story of it. And like, okay, what is your story, seniors, and how are you going to lead this group
So
too?
thinking about this in the perspective of if I'm not a coach,
Hmm.
and in a lot of ways, if you have a team, you are a coach.
Yes,
So, we have a real estate team
absolutely.
and it is so important to seek that guidance. I love what you said about having buy-in because one of the things that I feel like a good leader does and how they lead a team is that you cast a vision, you give them say, you give them ability to say, "Hey, I can raise my hand and I can give feedback,"
Mhm,
knowing that the leader is going to ultimately be able to be the one that makes the change and makes the
mhm,
call. But hearing that, and then I love the collaboration. I love,
mhm.
getting that from outside, even if it's not on your specific team
Sure.
with the athletic department. Because we do the same thing in our business. Like
Right.
we partner with other people in the real estate industry. We have real estate coaches. We want to make sure that we're not just so, in a box that you look up and you go, well, this, we thought we were doing something and then
Sure.
it's not working.
Yeah.
So I love all that you just said. And I
So
think,
glad that coaching can apply.
yes, it
And yeah,
can.
yeah.
And I think that anybody who has any type of team
Mhm.
or business, even that has people,
Yes.
employees,
Families that
that
has people and
yes,
like, how are we leading at home too?
yes.
Yeah.
So how does that correlate at home? I know your
Oh,
kids are little.
yes. They are little, but Dan and I coached almost every one of their sports teams. And it's so fun to get to be a part of their friends' lives too and have
Mhm.
influence in their friends' lives. I'm really getting to live my Ted Lasso dreams because it is my favorite show,
I
and
love Ted
it's
Lasso.
so good. And I am coaching our twins lacrosse team, and I know nothing about the sport,
I don't either, but
but
I
either
love
do the
it.
other parents. So they're like, "Well, you're a coach, so that's
So,
half the battle." And so Daniel
and
and I have
that it
just jumped
probably is true
into
though, because I think that coaching is coaching.
it is,
And
yeah,
whether it's life coaching, whether it's
sure,
sports coaching, like it translates
yeah,
really well.
100% translates. And
And
so it's fun to lead them in that way too. And I remember one of my kids was like, "So why don't you play volleyball with us every day? You've coached all these other sports for us." I was like, "Volleyball's just hard to play." Like I coach a competitive fifth grade team in the winter. And like that's really the earliest that you can pass, set, and hit a ball. You need a
yeah,
lot of hand-eye coordination.
it
And
requires a
so
lot.
yeah, and there's also not boys volleyball in the Midwest. So there
Why
is on
is
the
that?
coasts.
I know that is
It's the, are we evening out the sport? So like when I was in Virginia, my varsity program, it was our JV girls played, our varsity girls played, and then our varsity boys played. So we had 3 games
so you
just like I
did.
do now, but it's freshman JV varsity. It's all girls, but we also had field hockey. So that was the offsetting
That was
female
there.
sport,
Yeah.
and then boys volleyball.
Okay.
And so
And
yeah, we just need to get field hockey here.
lacrosse seems to be more of a male like sport too. Like
Yeah, but we have a girl on our team because
that's
her
cool.
older siblings play, and yeah, she's so fun
I
to have
bet
on the
she's
team.
tough
And yeah, we
too.
have there's a union girls lacrosse team. So that it's growing
Yeah.
for sure for
I
both
think there's a lot of those
genders.
sports that I feel like the big sports like baseball, football, soccer have always just dominated so
Sure.
much, like the sports world,
Yeah.
that now I feel like it's catching up. Like I have a cousin and she went to KU on a swim scholarship. And I'd never been to a swim meet until I went and watched her swim. And I was
Yeah.
like, man, this is
It
amazing.
is.
Like all of the different sports to me are just incredible
Right.
to like watch them compete.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't matter what sport it is. So that's pretty
Yes.
cool. Okay. So we only have a few minutes left. I
Sure.
want to hear a little bit. I loved hearing about that. We could probably talk all day
Good.
just about coaching teams, how
Yeah.
you build teams, how you sustain teams. But I love the fact that you've taken a program that was already successful, made it your own, put your stamp on it, but also listen to the people that came before you and got their,
Yeah.
really the counsel from them too. So I
Sure.
love that. So you also love to dabble in real estate and
Yes.
staging. And this is something I didn't know until today.
Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
So
You're full of surprises. Like, I honestly
well,
feel like,
good.
hey, I'm sorry. I know this is usually a 20-minute podcast, but now it's going to be an
Yes,
hour and 20 minutes.
sorry.
Yeah.
So I saw my dad, he's a CPA, growing up, and it was kind of his hobby to accumulate rent houses. And so
good hobby.
it is a good hobby. And I love that he did that. And I got to see what not to do because my dad, while being an accountant, is not business minded in regards to he was never the one that could like evict anyone. And so as I got into college, he was actually in a really awful car accident, rear-ended by a semi. And so my brother and I really stepped in to help a lot more because this was not my mom's cup of tea. She was just like, that's his hobby,
Yeah.
and he doesn't. And
know.
so
Yeah.
she really just was like, I don't want to go to these people's houses and knock on their door. And um, so we got a property manager involved at one point and things like that because we were in the Navy and living on the East Coast and my
Right.
brother was still going through school and things. So I learned what not to do, but I got to buy a couple of his rent houses as we started selling them off, realizing like this is not something that he can manage, nor can we from afar.
Right.
But I kept a couple and was like, I want to try this Airbnb thing because of how much we travel and how much we have
You
seen
use that. Mm-hmm.
that it is, especially after having kids, nice to be able to shut a door and be able to hang out after because our kids
Have you
sleep
seen that?
12 hours at night.
Have you seen the recent their recent commercial?
Yes,
that
where it
says
says like the
when you have a
3D
hotel,
graphic.
you have the same bedtime as your kids.
Same bedtime.
Yeah.
We're like sitting on our phones scrolling and like, or even like, cause if they rolled over at like 6 in the morning and they saw us in the room, they're like, it's time to get up. I'm like, it's not time to
No,
get
it's
up. So we
not.
built like these elaborate things to keep them from seeing us in their pack and plays. Cause I was coaching a club team and we would travel with them in the hotel room because that's where our team was staying.
Right.
But it was Airbnbs are the way to travel because you can
Right.
cook a few meals here and there and
Have a sense of home.
Yes, and
Mhm.
just hang out, especially if you're traveling with more than one family. So I just got back from Branson with my brother and his kids, and it was just like got to wake up and do breakfast and play cards together, and
That's cool.
and the cousins got to sleep in their own room, but they were,
Yeah, you need
living
that.
their best cousin life, and
So
then
you
we got
kept-
good sleep downstairs.
So you kept a couple of them, and then you still have
Yeah.
them.
We sold 2 of them,
Okay.
and we moved out of our house, and I like to think of it as like reallocating our assets
Yes.
to and so now we're just down the street from where we lived. And that
Nice.
house is an Airbnb. But the other 2 were in Midtown. And just like with coaching, I was like, I loved the staging part. I loved the flipping part. I loved all of that
But the
aspect, but the
management.
management.
Yeah, it's tough.
Not ideal.
Mhm.
And especially as far as we were from, I would sometimes go home from Lincoln and drop off toilet paper, coffee pods or whatever. And it worked, but it wasn't my best yes. And so I was like, I can manage this, still have an asset over here, and renovate this really, really awesome house. It looks like it should be in Germany. My dad's from Germany. We went there last summer with our kids, and
Oh,
it
how
just
fun.
like seeing that architecture. And my husband saw it on
You're like,
the
I love
was
it.
like, why did you do this to me? I love projects. And so he was like, just hear me out. We'll sell the 2 babies, and we'll
Buy this one.
buy this one,
which is great.
yeah, we've had a lot of fun fixing it up.
Okay, so my biggest takeaway from talking to you today is I love it that I think you can be dominant in multiple areas.
yeah, I'm gonna be a master of a couple.
And you are mastering it. So like
Thank
I
you.
love the fact that you've got your Airbnbs, that you're doing your staging, that you're coaching a rock star team. Like that's amazing. And being a engaged mama
Yes,
and wife. And those are the most important things.
for sure.
So I am really excited that we got to connect
Yes, I know.
today.
It was fun.
And I feel like I'm rushing us off of here because there's so much
Sure.
more that we could probably talk about. But that was incredible. And I just really
Yeah.
appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks to Jen for connecting
That's
us. And
right.
yeah.
Gotta love how you said my babysitter, Jen. And I was like, what? And then I was like, oh, Jen. It took me a second.
Yes.
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 My brain wasn't.
I didn't loop you in fast enough.
No, I
You had
got
to
it.
be
It just
good,
took me a
good.
second. Usually it doesn't take me that long. I'm usually pretty quick, but it took me a second to connect that. But well, Deidre, thank you so
Yeah.
much for being on today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this just as much as I did and that you had some takeaways that you can really implement and do things well and know that you can be a master of more than one.
Mhm.
And you are living proof of that. So
Sure.
thanks for being here today and
Thank you.
encouraging us.
Absolutely.
All right.
Till
Well,
next time.
okay, that's right. We might have to do it again soon.
Yes.
We'll catch you next time.